All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's video. I'm very excited to help you get richer per usual. I got a very strong topic for you today that's gonna help you make a whole lot more money. If you're on your path to trying to hit $1 million a month, you're likely gonna have to incorporate some paid advertising into that. If you don't, good for you. But a majority of businesses out there, they're gonna have to do some paid ads, if not everything via paid ads, in order to hit $1 million+ a month. One of the most common things that I hear from students, clients, consulting deals is, hey, I'm getting a lot of very qualified people and everybody's coming through really good, and then just all of a sudden it's not that way. There's a huge drop off that they experience and they never really understand why. Now, as an advertiser, I've spent a whole lot of money, a whole lot of money, okay? Now, to be clear, that lesson comes up all the time, and I've got a great way to overcome it that I'm gonna share with you today that's gonna help you make more money and consistently get financially qualified, the right type of people consistently through your paid advertising efforts. So let's get started. The first thing that we need to do is we need to understand why that's happening in the first place. Why are we getting consistently qualified people at the beginning of our campaigns for a sustained duration of time, and then all of a sudden we're not? And the drop off is rather extreme in most instances. I'm gonna break that down. There's a few different reasons that could be the case. So for starters, every single Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Google AdWords, LinkedIn, whatever platform you're advertising on, it all starts by you looking at it like a line graph, okay? Down here you got time, over here you got result volume, okay? Now, to be clear, in the initial parts of any campaign, you gotta understand what's at stake for the platform. The platform, they understand the game, okay? They wanna get you as great of a result as they possibly can right off the bat, okay? And that's why typically when you very first launch a campaign, you have an extremely high probability of things going well for you. It's very simple. These algorithms on these platforms, they are just prediction machines. Okay, so whether you have a brand new pixel, a brand new advertising account, whatever, brand new everything, or you have a highly seasoned pixel, an account that's spent millions of dollars and already has a ton of data inside of it, every single campaign still generally works the same when it first starts. In this initial window, all that they're trying to do for you is ensure that whatever you've optimized your campaign for, you're gonna get results as fast as possible. That's the game for these advertising platforms. So as an example, if I have a call funnel and I have it optimized for submit applications, schedule, complete registration, a custom conversion, whatever, I have a very high probability in this first window, a lot of people that are gonna fulfill that specific campaign objective. It's that simple. When you target a broad demographic, or even if you target a niche demographic, there is a subset of that specific group of people in terms of the audience size that, simply put, have a very high probability to convert, okay? So at any given time, just picture in your head, there's a good, at least 1 to 3% of the total quantity of people that you're targeting that Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever, will look at and say, okay, these people right here, these people are probable to do what this specific advertiser is optimizing their campaigns for. And long story short, that specific demographic is usually who you will reach first. Simple enough. And this specific window, it's important to note, this could be days, this could be weeks, this could even be months. And it really depends on a few things. It depends on spend in terms of how long that window is gonna last. In addition to that, it depends on structure. Structure meaning like, well, what specific campaign type did you use? How many ad sets did you stuff inside of it? What's the audience size? Like, all these things start to really come into play when it comes to just how long this specific best, highest converting, most probable window is set to occur. Now, this specific window can also be looked at in terms of buckets. Okay, now this bucket system is a relatively interesting view that I've heard over the years and that I've subscribed to. I do like this general view on this whole thing. Bucket 1, simply put, you have the highest probability once again to reach the most qualified people in this window. Bucket 2, which is what starts to occur after you've essentially spent enough, converted enough people, ran out, simply put, of the 1 to 3% that are the most probable. What ends up happening is you move into the second bucket. Now, the second bucket can be pretty wide. The second bucket can typically be anywhere from 3 to upwards of even 12% of the total demographic. Now, these people, it's really simple to understand. they're less probable than the initial 1/3 demographic. And that's all it really means. That's all you need to interpret it as. Although, sure, you might think, well, I've got enough pixel data now. I've got people that are coming in that are optimizing my pixel and my ad account because I've reinforced it with enough data. And sure, that's true, but campaigns through time, it's just very simple, you understand. It's a game of how long can it reach the most qualified people that are the most probable to convert before it has to go into that second bucket. And like I said, the second bucket, it's not terrible. Believe it or not, you can still be very profitable. You can still scale into it aggressively. Like there's not necessarily a lot of downsides, to be clear. I'm not trying to make it sound like your results just go to shit. What I am trying to make clear is it is just a lower probability that these people in the eyes of these prediction machines, these algorithms, it's just deemed them a lower probability to convert. Your data coming into the pixel, reinforcing that qualified people are buying or scheduling calls or becoming leads, whatever you're optimizing for, that matters a ton to the types of people that you're gonna reach next in bucket number 2. Bucket number 2 can be a very profitable bucket, and it can last a lot longer, believe it or not, in comparison to bucket number 1. Bucket number 1, once again, at most, it's usually about 1 to 3 months. Bucket number 2 can generally last 3 to 6 months. I want to be fair in saying if you have a very niche audience, just to disclose, like tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, you do have a probability where these windows shorten down tremendously. In addition to that, it's important to disclose, this is kind of a dynamic graph here for how this works. You can also really shorten that window by spending an absolute ton of money into any audience size. Like I've had clients that spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in 2 weeks, and they're going to shorten their cycle from, 1 to 3 months down to like weeks, or potentially days, depending on, once again, the audience sizes. So this is a very dynamic chart here. It's important to understand. Less spend doesn't necessarily equal more time. More spend doesn't necessarily equal less time. It's very fluid depending on the demographic, audience sizes, spend levels, conversion type in terms of the objective that you've specifically chosen to optimize for. All that needs to be factored in. But regardless, what typically happens after bucket 2, okay? And this is where you really have to understand how this works in detail. You start to experience a plateau generally, and then a decline from there, okay? Very rarely does it just consistently go up and to the right? Very rarely. There are ways where you can ensure that that's the case through time, and I'll disclose those here in this video today. However, it's very low probability that you're just gonna be able to launch a campaign, continue increasing the budget forever, and just sustain being in buckets 1 and 2. Okay, because once again, what happens after that is you experience bucket 3. Now, bucket 3 kind of sucks, because at first it kind of seems like in this specific window here that you have broken out. Like in this little window, you're kind of like hopeful in a sense. You're like, oh man, am I gonna break the curse of bucket 3? But remember, bucket 3 is pretty simple to understand. Bucket 3 are all of the people that you have left to target that are, simply put, the lowest probability in the eyes of these prediction machines, in the eyes of these algorithms, as probable to convert on whatever campaign objective you're advertising for and whatever offer you've got. This is typically that 12% to the 100% of your remaining demographic that you've got left. Bucket number 3, this is where you experience the plateaus. This is when, okay, things have been going really well for you for a while. In bucket 2, you might notice like a small difference where, as an example, let's use like your qualification ratio, or if you're an e-com store, like your AOVs as an example. You might start to see in bucket 1, like great ROAS, you're really excited, everything's working really well, you're scaling into it. And like I said, that could sustain itself for a few months. To be clear, you enter into bucket 2, like you start to notice something. Like AOV might fluctuate a little more, average order value. The quality ratio might start to fluctuate a little bit. Like historically, you might have gotten really qualified people very consistently. Once you get bucket 2, it's like, you'll see some days where there's a lot of turds that come through and you'll be like, why are there a bunch of unqualified people? But your ROAS is good, everything's still going well, and you're still scaling. So you're not necessarily too concerned about it, but you're starting to see cracks in the foundation. That's what kind of starts to happen in bucket number 2. Bucket number 3 is like, okay, I'm gonna have to do something. Like bucket number 3 is where you really see a decline. Bucket number 3 where the qualification ratio goes down the drain. Bucket number 3 is like your AOV and your ROAS just fucking drop like a rock, and you're just like, what the fuck's going on? Now, to be clear, bucket number 3, it's important to note, you either ride the wave until the wave crashes down on you, or you just kind of prematurely jump ship and do the following solutions that I'm going to encourage throughout this remaining part of the video. I just want you to start by understanding how this all works. That's the initial conversation I want you to embrace here in this lesson here today. This is how this works, okay? It's all probabilities. And when you look at it from the eyes of these advertising platforms, they're just stacking the odds in their favor and in your favor, to be fair. It's just an incentive system. They want you to spend more money, so they're going to do their absolute best at the beginning. And then through time, the campaigns typically break down, and you as the advertiser need to know what to do in order to regain the performance. So to be clear, when you understand how machine learning works, okay, and you look at it like the line graphs that I've just described them to be, when you see it moving through these three buckets, what you're actually seeing is a very simple system, okay? Every single one of these campaigns that gets launched goes through the same process, no matter what. So it's important to understand every single time that you relaunch a campaign, you are increasing your probability dramatically that you are going to get a heightened level of performance again. Because once again, what do the platforms want to do? Well, every time you launch a campaign, they want to stack the odds in your favor that you're going to get as many people achieving the outcome that you've optimized your campaign for as you possibly can. So every time you do a simple relaunch, sometimes it's literally that simple. And by the way, just to disclose, I'm going to go from simplest to a little more advanced in terms of solutions here. So the simplest thing, once again, quite literally, select your campaign, duplicate it out, publish it, let it get approved, turn off the old one, see if your result quality goes back up to what it was pre-fatigue, okay? This is typically solution number one in terms of what I would do if, once again, I deem this as something that's viable for me to consider. Now, solution number two, same concept. I'm gonna do a relaunch again so I can experience that bucket number one type result volume. However, it's important to note, I'm going to relaunch, and in addition to the relaunch, I am also going to swap my videos or my images, okay? Now, when I do this we refer to as ad fatigue, okay? Ad fatigue is pretty simple to understand. I have an entire document with some examples in it that I give to my students, but allow me to just break it down in a very simple way for you here. Ad fatigue is when your result volume drops and your cost per result climbs. It typically doesn't ever go back to what it was pre-fatigue. This is ad fatigue, meaning literally Facebook doesn't have, or any ad platform for that matter, they don't have the ability to pick up the phone and say, hey, what's going on, advertiser? You've run your ads a little too long, and we encourage that you swap them out. We'd love to see some fresh creatives from you. So if you could do that for us, that'd be great. It'd be sweet if they just picked up the phone and did that, to be clear, but instead they communicate to us with signals. They know us advertisers are sitting there looking at all these ad statistics in the platform. So that's what they do. They communicate to us through the statistics. When our result volume drops and our cost per result climbs, it just sustains that pattern until we relaunch, swap the videos or images, and then once again, once that's approved, we cut the old campaign, we let the new one ride. This, I want to disclose, has a very high probability of working when we want to pull ourselves back into that high quality initial part of the campaign quality, best probabilities in our favor type results. In addition to doing the relaunch, once again, we swap the creatives, it just stacks the odds that much better in our favor. Ad fatigue is one of the biggest culprits of lowering your quality of person coming through the funnel through time. It's like I said, it all works in probability. That's all it is. It goes after the highest probability people first, goes through the lowest probability people as time goes on, okay? So to be clear, ad fatigue and overcoming it this way dramatically improves the quality of person and the caliber of, and just the performance of the campaign, okay? Now to be clear, as we get into number three, these become a little more tricky and they're circumstantial depending on the situation, okay? Sometimes it's audience fatigue, okay? Now audience fatigue, the way that you tell, and the reason this isn't at the top of the list is because you have to treat it like it's ad fatigue first. So you attempt to solve the issue with ad fatigue protocol first. Once again, just to reiterate, ad fatigue protocol is super simple. We relaunch the campaign, go to the ad level, pull out the videos or images, put in new videos or images, press publish. Once approved, turn the old campaign off. That's ad fatigue protocol. If upon the ad fatigued campaign getting cut off and the new campaign with the fresh creatives coming on, if we do not see our cost per result go back to what it was pre-fatigue and we don't see the quality go up, then we likely have audience fatigue. But we got to do the ad fatigue protocol first. Audience fatigue is pretty simple to understand. And I hope you're able to conclude what this likely is. Audience fatigue is where whatever audience you're specifically driving traffic to, you've just run out of people that are probable to convert. That's as simple as it is. So remember, at any given time, out of every single possible audience that you have to target, it just works in probabilities. And to be clear, at different stages of how much spend you've had towards a specific demographic that you've been targeting for a while, I mean, there's just nothing else that really converts these people. They just kind of, produce the same results and you can't really scale into them. That's another way to tell it's audience fatigue, is even if you get ad fatigue protocol to work, the campaigns just die way quicker than what they historically have. That's another way to generally tell that you're experiencing audience fatigue. And all you gotta do is pretty simple. You gotta either widen the audience, you gotta add to the audience, or you just gotta change audiences. So add, change, or just broaden it completely. Now remember, it's important to note, every time that you simply put just add more people, okay? It's a game of addition, where if I'm widening, adding, or just in general making my campaigns and the people I'm targeting just broad, all I'm doing is just increasing the amount of people probable to convert. That's it. That's why that works. Makes sense? So to be clear, these three things: simple relaunch, ad fatigue protocol, audience fatigue protocol, these are very simple, direct ways to overcome the I'm having quality issues, I'm struggling to get consistency in my campaigns through time, I need to do what in order to get that result to go back up to what it was pre-fatigue, okay? This specific structure is great. Now, to be fair, there's one more thing I want to make sure I cover with you before we cut today's video, okay? And this one's pretty simple. This one's a lot more rare, okay? However, it is possible. And this is the funnel fatigue. So if you look at the quantity of people available to convert at any time, like a pie chart, ideally, you're targeting what's called the majority hook. When you are going through creative testing, your goal should be to find the hook that resonates with the most people, rather than trying to target these smaller hooks that don't resonate with the demographic that you're targeting. So to be clear, that's typically why ad fatigue is so high on the list of things that make our resolutions here very probable to come back in our favor. Funnel fatigue is kind of tricky, okay? It's at the lowest list of probabilities for a simple reason. So all we're doing when we overcome ad fatigue and we're doing our creative testing, we're ideally seeing, if we're in this type of hook, maybe we're in like a 1/3 hook, which is still pretty good. And eventually you see a dramatically lower cost per result, a dramatically higher volume from the specific audiences that you're targeting. That's when you know you got the majority hook. Now, to be clear, in this process, okay, if you've successfully, through relaunching your campaigns with fresh creatives again and again and again, just look at it like this. What you've done is you've launched several hooks, okay? So eventually your majority hook, you've milked it. It'll always typically sustain as long as that specific audience type has people being added into it through time. But like, you've milked that quantity of people. They've seen your funnel again and again and again and again. And whatever amount of people are probable to convert have typically converted. And you might sustain and like have a plateau that you can endure, but like you really won't get much more from it. And then you might have even found that 1/3 hook, that was still like the next majority, but same logic. You hammered these people a bunch of times with different angles of relatively using the same hook. You've driven them to the same funnel again and again and again and again. And if there's not a ton more people being added into the specific audience bucket that you're targeting and just slamming with ads, unfortunately, same logic. Those people have seen your funnel too many times. Even if they respond to that hook, it's just a lower probability they convert. And then you've even worked in one of these minority hooks. Okay, so really look at this for what it is. At this point, the only thing that you have left available to target are all these little slivers of even smaller minority hooks. So trying to relaunch the ads with different new creatives and different hooks, once you've got the majority hook and then the second majority hook and then you start to work into minority hooks, you're just kind of going into smaller and smaller pools out of the total audience size that you've got. So to be clear, there's a few solutions to this, and like I've described, audience fatigue is above funnel fatigue for a reason. Broadening the audience up and experiencing this problem again and again and again just with different audience buckets is definitely a great solution. But once again, funnel fatigue can occur. Sometimes you can only go so broad. There's only so many people, once again, probable in the advertising algorithm's eyes that are set to convert on your offers. So to be clear, when that occurs, you got to change the funnel. You got to change the funnel strategy. And this, very uncommon that you have to do this in most instances. And it's not necessarily just changing the headline or like the funnel type. It's like, oh, look, if you've been running a webinar campaign for a while, it might be time to switch to a call funnel. If you've been running a call funnel for a really long time, it might be time to switch to a live webinar. If you've been running a live webinar for a while, it might be time to switch to like low ticket products to upsell into high ticket product. If you've been doing like all three of these for a while, it might be time to switch it up to like a DM ad strategy. You know what I mean? It's like you kind of want to rotate the types of funnels that you use. Ideally, to be clear, you're avoiding being a one-legged stool, which means that you only have one way of converting customers in the first place. Ideally, you're testing a lot of these anyway, and you've stuck to that process and you're doing well with it. So you can lean into one or the other types of funnels at any given time when one starts to underperform and you've worked through a bunch of ad angles, you've worked through a bunch of audience expansion, retention tactics, and now once again, you're having to lean into different funnels. To be clear, funnel fatigue, lower probability, but still, you need to be able to see it if and when it comes up so you can address it, overcome the issue, and resolve the problem when that does happen. Okay, to be clear, just to reiterate, 4 different ways to easily overcome the problem of, well, I'm having a quality issue. All starts by understanding it's just a game of probabilities. You got to understand the bucket system. When you are doing okay, I'm trying to solve this problem, here's everything you need to do. You got the relaunch solution, you got the ad fatigue protocol, you got the audience fatigue protocol, and you got the funnel fatigue protocol. And you do them in that order. Simplest to a little more challenging, less time and effort intensive to more time and effort intensive. This has worked dramatically for myself, my students, my clients, my consulting clients, again and again and again. I really hope it helps you too. To be clear, you like lessons like this? First of all, check out all the other videos on my channel. I'd encourage you subscribe, like the video, comment. And if you want the real juicy stuff, you want the high level information that's gonna make you a lot of money a lot quicker than anything else that's for free, join into my Inner Circle program. We do masterminds 4 times a year here at the house in Miami. We got weekly group calls that we do every Saturday at 11 a.m. We do twice a month one-on-one mentoring together. In addition to that, we got a group chat with all the other people that are rich, trying to get a hell of a lot richer. It'd be an honor to have you in there if you're the right type of person for it. And obviously we have a limited amount of people that we can have in there in the first place. So you got to qualify, you got to talk to my team if you're going to want to join in. And to be clear, if you're the right type of person, we're very excited to welcome you in. This isn't some BS scarcity tactic, by the way. We do have real limitations because I offer the one-on-one mentoring, a part of the whole thing. And I got limited spaces in the places I can do masterminds. We don't do them at hotels. We do them at the place that I live so you can come be a part of my actual life and experience firsthand what lessons like these get you. So anyway, those links are in the description. I'd love for you to check out some of my other content and subscribe to the channel if you already are. Thank you very much. And yeah, I'll see you in another video. Talk soon.